welcome to my Sickle Cell Life podcast. My name is Janquisha Phillips. I go by Jando. What is your name, age, and location?
So my name is Yomi. Yomi Ajeneye, but I just go by Yomi. I am 26 years old. I am born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee.
At what age were you diagnosed with sickle cell, and what is your genotype?
So I was diagnosed at birth through the newborn screening. My parents knew within days that I was born that I had sickle cell. I have genotype SS. However, I did not know I had sickle cell until age 9. My parents wanted to keep it from me so that I could have a quote unquote normal childhood, even though I always knew that things were wrong. Like I had some questions, but I couldn't pinpoint, okay, what is going on? My parents knew, like, anytime I would come back, I'm like, well, I wasn't able to run with my friends. I'm getting so tired. I'm always so thirsty. I'm always, having this leg and back pain. My parents knew. They just didn't say anything. So when I had my first crisis, my first big crisis at age 9, and I had to be hospitalized for a little over a week for that, that's when I was told. And
Okay. And so, with that first crisis, what was that experience like for you?
oh my God, it was so scary. Like, I still remember how I felt because it was the summer before I was going to 4th grade. And, summertime, I'm playing around, doing what regular 9-year-old kids do in the summertime before they have to go to school. But I remember I started getting shorter breath. My back, I remember I used to have, actually not even still used to, I still have terrible back pain sometimes, but my back and my legs were always the first things to start hurting. So my parents I'm first generation Nigerian American. So my parents are using like traditional Nigerian methods to see if my pain could go away. Then I started running a fever. Then they're giving me things for the fever, is not going down. Last things that I felt was shortness of breath, and my heart rate was super, 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 super fast, to the point that my parents were like, okay. I think it had to be about 3 or 4 days that they were trying to, self medicate me at home before they were like, nothing is helping. All our traditional medicines and all the medicines we do have here are not working, so we need to take you to the hospital. So it was very scary that last day, because I remember by the time my mom got me to the hospital, I couldn't walk. Like, she's trying to take me out the car and I'm collapsing. Like, my legs, they didn't work. They had to carry me from the car to the emergency room. And I had a 2.6 hemoglobin. So
Oh my God.
it was
Oh wow.
crazy. It was a very crazy experience. And then we went to the hospital by my parents' house, which that's a regular adult hospital. The children's hospital is downtown. So I had to be transferred. So I had to ride in the ambulance. My mom, she's driving the car behind the ambulance where they're taking me to the children's hospital. And just, I mean, I used to see it in TV and movies all the time where everybody's like rushing towards you and like freaking out and blah, blah, blah. And then it was happening to me. But it was a very scary experience, because before then, I probably only went to the hospital maybe 2 or 3 times before then, but it was like emergency room visits, and I will always be discharged. I never had to stay in the hospital. So as a 9-year-old, that happening, and, hearing all of the, like, being on oxygen, I never had to be on oxygen, being on oxygen, hearing that a 2.6 hemoglobin is terrible, the pain, the different medications, that was the first time I ever had to encounter a PCA pump.
Oh,
It was very scary at first because I never had to do any of that before then.
yeah, that I'm sure that that was scary, and especially because you were not aware that you had sickle cell. All you knew is that something was wrong, you
Hmm.
know? And it's so crazy because you are not the first person to tell me that um their parents tried to keep, the diagnosis away from the child because they were afraid that it would make you act differently or something like that. And that happens, and I heard it from people that live in Nigeria, that live over in Africa, and everything. And that was so shocking to me. I'm like, what do they think is gonna change if they don't tell you? You know?
Right. And that's something that I had to ask my parents later on as I got older. Like, why was this kept from me? And they always were telling me, like, hey, we just want you to have a normal childhood. We didn't want you to have a crutch or have an excuse or, use it to get handouts and stuff. And it's like, but it was part of me. It hindered me. I mean, I had so many questions between the time I can
Right.
remember age 5 up until age 9, like a good 4 or 5 years where I'm thinking like something is wrong. Nobody's telling me anything. And like I had to start notating like, okay, I can't do this or else I'm gonna get sick, or I can't do that. But it's like, what am I getting sick from? So it was, I understand you want your child to have feel normal, you want your child to have a normal childhood, but if things are constantly happening and they don't have an answer, it could be scary. And I'm talking about it with my friends and they don't know what's going on. I'm
Right.
talking about it with teachers, they don't know what's going on. They're just thinking like some weird thing is going on,
Yeah.
nobody has an answer to, because that's the reason why a lot of my family members don't even know I have sickle cell. Like I didn't say anything up until um earlier this year,
Oh,
which
wow.
I'll talk about it later, why I finally said something. But a lot of family members are just now finding out that I was born with sickle cell. And I don't know why it's such like a, oh my God, like it's cursed or something. Like I was, despite a lot of challenges, I mean, I was able to still kind of live a normal life, but
Mhm.
I explained to you why they feel like, especially
Right.
Nigerians, why they feel like it's such like a curse, like it's like a, basically like it's a curse for your child to have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And so I've heard that um some of these parents will abandon their children if they have a diagnosis of sickle cell.
Hmm.
Like, that's crazy to me.
It is.
So from there, from 9 years old, what was your childhood like when they finally told you that you had sickle cell?
Well, afterwards, I was then able to really know why a lot of things were happening. I was able to, even though my parents still advised against it, I would tell my teachers, like, hey, I have sickle cell. This is what it does to me. And this is why I can't do X, Y, and Z. So I've always kind of been like a self sufficient child because of many reasons, but a lot of it, I had to figure a lot of things out on my own. So I was kind of able to explain to teachers, explain to some of my close friends that, okay, if this happens to me, this is what you should do, or this is why this is happening, or this is why I can't do this, or this is why I do this a lot. So um I still would try to play sports, but I could never sufficiently play a sport, even though I really, really wanted to. So that's when I turned to music. So I've always played instruments since the age of about 13. Yeah, 13. I'm going. So no, 12. 12, because I was in seventh grade. Yeah, seventh grade when I first started my first instrument. So I was always trying to figure out like, okay, I can't play sports even though I really want to play sports. I can't do cheerleading because it involves a lot of stunts and jumping and being very hyper, which I can't do because every time I try to be hyper or try to
Right.
jump, try to run, then all of a sudden I'm hurting and then I have to call my mom to come pick me up. And my parents didn't like me missing school a lot. So there's been a lot of times where my parents will send me to school even though I'm in active crisis, even though I have to call back home 2 to 3 hours from the time they drop me off to come pick me back up. I don't know. That's something that I still don't know why they do that. I've asked and they were just like, well, educate because education is very important to Nigerians because how Nigeria was became independent was the founding fathers would go to Britain because Nigeria was a colony of Great Britain. They became lawyers and then used Britain's laws against Britain. And that's how Nigeria became independent. So a lot of Nigerians, especially from my parents' age group and on, they value education a lot. Like they don't care if you live far, they don't care what disease you have, they don't care what's going in your life. You are going to school. So even though I will be in active crisis, they're like, no, you still have to go to school. Go learn like two things and come back home. And it's like it doesn't make any sense, but hey.
Wow. Do how did sickle cell get passed down to you? Do your parents have the trait or
Yes. So both of my parents have the trait. And they didn't know until I was born.
okay. Okay.
So
Oh wow. Yeah. I understand. And so you're the only person you said that has sickle cell in your family?
well, in my entire family, no. Actually, I just found out a cousin of mine has sickle cell. But because my dad has a half brother who married a couple of times,
Mm.
and one of the wives he had, I guess he has the trait. So one of the wives that he married also had the trait. So one of his sons has the who in my line that would be my cousin, even though it's half. Anyway, they have the trait. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
not the trait, have the disease. Then I have a another cousin who she since passed. She passed a couple of years ago, but she was a twin. The twin had the
Uh,
trait. The other twin had the disease, but she passed from tuberculosis, so she didn't pass from sickle cell. Then there's me, and there I don't know of anybody else because again, that's not something that even a lot of my family members still don't know I have sickle cell. A couple of them do that follow me, but
uh,
through one of my cousins, that's how I found out another cousin has it, and then I'm still trying to figure out more, but my brother, I have a brother that's 3 years younger than me. He's not even a carrier. He doesn't have the trait, he doesn't have the disease. So he's AA. So it's
uh,
what happened.
okay. So, do you have children or do you want to have children?
I do not have any kids. I do hope to have kids. That's actually the procedure that I had yesterday because I'm in the CRISPR trial. So I'll be getting my CRISPR transplant hopefully in February or March of next year. And I get to do fertility preservation.
Okay.
So I got to save some eggs because it's not a 100% chance that I'll
Yeah.
be because of the chemo, but just in case I do have eggs to use if it does happen. So I've always said maybe just one kid because the way these kids be, I don't know. But since it was just me and my brother, I don't want to have kids. I always thought like, okay, either one kid or three kids. It depends on how everything goes, but that's cool.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you have one, that one is gonna make you fall in love and want to have another one.
That's
So
my
be prepared, okay? Be But okay. So, and we'll talk about the CRISPR trial near the end.
Mhm.
But so how often would you say you have crises that put you in the hospital?
Well, when I was younger, maybe every 2 to 3 years. Like my sickle cell used to be controlled. Then I became an adult. And
Right.
it's so crazy how, I mean, and I think most of, if not all, sickle cell patients have been through this, but pediatric care, we've gotten the best care in pediatric care. So then I wasn't that sick. And then when
Yeah.
I to adult care, I'm having, especially when I first had my first cycle, actually. So going back a little bit, I used to get sick all the time, but then I ended up on birth control, which stopped my period. So then I wasn't sick as much. Then I went to college, age
Mm,
18. I started getting sick at least just once a year. And then by the time I turned 24, 25, it was like every couple of months. So for about the last 2 years, I'll be in the hospital maybe every 2 to 3 months for about a week at a time.
yeah.
So as I gotten older, it
Yeah.
got
Yeah. That's par for the course, unfortunately for us, because sickle cell is a progressive disease. It gets worse normally as you age. And because it beats up your organs, it ages you a lot quicker on the inside. And so that's why we end up, feeling the way we feel, and we end up, passing away young, because our organs look like they're 60 years old and I'm only 35. So that's what sickle cell does to you, and that's why we end up in the hospital. And I have had the same experience. I was a great sickle cell patient when I was younger, because I did not have to be hospitalized like that. When I was hospitalized, it was like you said, every 2 years, and it was mostly for me because I had pneumonia. The
right,
pneumonia would trigger a crisis, and so, yep, I definitely understand that. And now that I am older, it's like I find myself in the ER at least once a month, at
mm-hmm.
least once, and it really sucks. It really sucks, but that's why I'm asking, because I just want to gauge and see if everybody is about the same as I am, you know. And
Right.
so, do
And
you
I
find
think,
it?
oh,
Mhm.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. You're good.
Like
Go ahead.
I was just in the actually I just had an ER visit this past Saturday. Like I don't know what it is about
Mhm.
my and nighttime. I know there's a science to it, but I mean, I have everyday chronic pain, but at night it's like a whole different ball
Yeah.
game. So I just had a ER visit this past Saturday. And then my last ER visit,
Yeah.
probably because I've been doing blood exchanges, maybe my last was like in June. So I did a little better, but I at least out of four ER visits, maybe one or two of them will end up in a hospital stay. So and it's
Yeah.
so crazy that in a being an adult causes it, because as an adult we'd say, okay, we could do this, we could do that, and then it's like, nope, you can't do all of that. No.
Right. Right. You push your body over the edge, and
Mhm.
it really ends up biting you in the butt afterwards.
Right.
But so, do you find it difficult to maintain employment and stuff like that because of hospitalization, and because you have crises and stuff that debilitate you?
Well, when I first started working when I was 18, and when I would work, I always worked part-time, so it it wasn't an issue because I could just call my manager and be like, "Hey, don't schedule me this week. Something's going on," and it'd be cool. Then when I
Uh,
graduated college in 2020. I started like, the big girl job. So I was working in I started with corporate America, working full time. And my first position, they were very understanding. I
Mhm.
think because that was during COVID, I was inside more, so I didn't get sick really during 2020. 2021, I remember I had a hospitalization that January, but my job was still understanding. Then I switched companies in 2021 later that year, and I was traveling for work. It was amazing. Like I loved that job, but I started getting sicker and sicker. That's around the time my health started really declining. And I thought they would
Mhm.
understand because I work for a healthcare company. I work in healthcare. I'm just in the corporate setting.
Right.
No, they didn't understand. Like they were like, "Well, we need somebody that could perform our job duties. You've been missing a lot of work. You've been missing all the audits that we've been having. Blah blah blah." So after 2 years in that job, I left because it got. I mean, it got to a point. I had a meeting with the VP, and he was like, "Well, if stuff keeps happening, then we're probably going to look at termination." And it's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to be terminated." So I stayed with the same company, but I transferred departments, and it was a work from home job. I got to do a little bit of something different. I gave it 1 year and they were not understanding at all. Like they kept asking about, well, why do you have to be out every couple of weeks? I'm like, I have blood exchanges. Like I'm not going to Cancun.
Right.
I'm not going to Europe. I'm not going to Paris. Like
Right.
I'm I'm making sure that I can still be alive next year. So I
Right. Yeah.
position on Monday. And when I interviewed, I was honest with my manager. I was like, hey, I have this condition. However, I am going to receive a CRISPR treatment soon. And I told her, like, every couple of weeks, I'm going to have to do blood exchanges. And she was like, I 100% understand, but we like you. You look good on paper. We're going to hire you. And, so I'm hoping this new position, and it's still with the same company. So I've been with this company for over 3 years. So hopefully this new position, the people that I work with are more supported than the last two departments I was in, because they were not supported at all. Even though I'll make sure I have PTO, I'll make sure I do my FMLA paperwork. I make sure that, hey, if ahead of time, even before I get to the hospital, if I say, hey, like, I'm think I have to go to the emergency room, it may end up in a hospital visit, this is what's happening. I do all the right things, and it's still like, well, we need somebody that's gonna be here all the time. And it's like, well, unfortunately, I can't. Like, I gotta make sure that I'm still living. I'm not going to push myself so
Right.
far like all the other people who, you know, I'm a salary worker, so I could have 6 hour days, I could have 12 hour days, but I'm not gonna push myself to 12 hours and my body's not gonna, like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So just finding the right management, and I think I found that now, has really helped in, like, because like I said
Yeah.
later, you don't have to hire me because this is what's going on with me. And she was like, hey, we'll deal with it because your qualifications blow me away, and here it goes. So it's just finding the right management. And even though you work in healthcare, you think they understand. No, they want somebody that
Mm-mm.
can dedicate their whole livelihood, even neglect their family for the job. And I'm
Yep.
not.
For real, that's how it is. They do not care. Why were you and it's like, why does it matter? Like, I got treatment, I didn't miss work. It's not affecting my work. So why does it matter? And
Right.
it's simply because they need a body. They need somebody that's reliable, and they do not care. They don't care at all. It's really sad that we have some of the similar experiences, but luckily, like you said, you may have found the right management that understands your situation. So, what at this point, do you have a strong support system for, like, when you go into the hospital and stuff like that?
Oh yes, I do. I am married. My husband, he does not play about me like at all. He will be there every single day. If I have an issue with a doctor and nurse, he's going to show up and make sure that I get what I need. Of course, I have my parents,
That's
even though
what's up.
I had issues with my parents, at least my dad, that me and my dad, we get along great, me and my mom, yeah. But, they'll still show up if I need them. I have
Yeah.
good friends that, I could speak to while I'm in the hospital. Some of them come visit. Um, I have a very good hematology team now. I just found them this year.
Okay.
My hematology team, my God, they could care less about me. But my new team, they'll fight for me. They'll make sure that from the time I enter the emergency room to the time I leave the hospital, that everything goes smoothly and that my treatment plan is goes as it's supposed to be. So yeah, I have a very good support system.
That is so good to hear because not everyone has that. So,
Right.
hand claps for your support system. You gotta definitely thank your husband because that's what he's supposed to do as a man. He's
Definitely.
supposed to have his woman's back. So that is so good. I'm glad that you have people that can advocate for you when you can't advocate for yourself.
Right.
Because I was telling other warriors that some that don't have the support system. I'm like, you need to have an advocate at least because you can go into the hospital perfectly lucid and able to tell them what's wrong and what you need and everything. But then if anything happens during that hospital visit where you become incapacitated and you cannot tell them what you want, you can't tell them your wishes, you need somebody there that knows what you want, you know, and
Right.
would be able to tell the doctors, hey, don't do that. She wouldn't want you to do that. Or hey, do this. She would want you to do that. And all kind of stuff because if you don't, they will take over. The doctors will take over and they will
Mm.
make all of the decisions whether you really wanted that or not, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
it is so good that you have them. I'm so happy to hear that. And I am also a peer support and an advocate. So if you ever need somebody extra, I'm always here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Uh
I really do appreciate that.
yeah, and I really do mean it. I really do cuz we all need help
Hmm.
sometimes. And so my next question is what do you feel like the sickle cell community needs as a whole?
I think as a whole, we need some heavy hitters on our team. I mean, we need some doctors on our team. We need some lawyers. I think because a lot of us, we're just patients. A lot of us don't have access to like a congressman, a senator. Like, we need heavy hitters on our team that could fight for us beyond what we can do because we can march, we could do events, we can do different things within a hospital, but if it does not reach like a senator, a congressman, a lawyer, like nothing around the country can change. It can only reach within your community, and that's if they will want to make any changes. I think we need like heavy hitters on our team that can vouch for us,
Yeah.
nationwide, that can
Yeah.
set laws in place, that can fight for us if we have any medical negligence going on in a hospital, any pharmaceutical issues that we run across, any just anything so that they know like, hey, yes, we might be a sickle cell patient, yes, we might not have the support we need, but these heavy hitters, you're gonna end up fired, or you're gonna end up needing to change your
Right.
protocols. We're
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And I've always said
Mm,
this, like, I know we all try, I try to go on social, I do a little thing on social media, I try to reach who I can reach. I've
mm,
also my doctors about, see if we could talk to senators or congressmen in my state.
right.
And it's like just trying to get them to hear us out is an issue. It's like they have
Mm,
bigger, they want to did they want to handle before they even think about a sickle cell patient? What is a sickle
right.
cell for that? Like, no, just
Yep.
do whatever you do. Like, I don't. But we need somebody on a state or even a federal level that can
Mhm.
really put some people in their places, because some of the things I've heard and even witnessed myself in the medical field is atrocious, and not
Yes.
even not even a homeless person will even get that treatment. Not even a crackhead should even get the travel treatment that we get sometimes. I
Right.
mean, like I said, I had
Yeah.
an emergency room visit this past Saturday, and I work for the corporate office that owns that hospital, and I've already reached out to who I need to reach out, so I don't think I'm gonna see her again. But I saw a physician's assistant, and the way she was talking to me and the way she was trying to handle my case, even though I know what I need to get myself better, that I mean,
Mhm.
nobody be talked to like that. Like, you don't want to spend, no, I don't want to spend a Saturday night in the hospital. Like, no, I don't want to come see
Right.
any. So you
Mm,
treat me like I'm the scum under somebody's shoe? No. And
yep.
hopefully learns, because she didn't even know I work for the corporate office, so I know who to talk to. But we need heavy hitters. We need some heavy hitters on our team that could make something shake.
Yep. I agree. I was literally just saying that to another sickle cell warrior when I asked this question, because I was like, we need some legislation. We
Mm-hmm.
need some laws passed in our name on our behalf. And we need to pull up to the House or Congress, the Senate, somebody. We need to pull up to somebody that can make some legislation and pass some laws on our behalf to change
Right.
this, because there should be real life consequences for mistreating us in the hospital. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you guys have studied sickle cell for decades on end, you know that it is a serious disease. You know that it is a deadly disease. You know
Mm-hmm.
how painful and horrific it is, because if it wasn't, all of us would not be screaming the same things that we're screaming,
Right.
you know? And so it's just like, to continue to treat us like we are not supposed to be cared for adequately is very insulting, you know?
Right.
And they literally will treat a person that got cancer at age 45 like they're gold, and like they've been struggling their entire life or something. It's like this person has been healthy their entire life up until this point. So, but because they have cancer, they get the Cadillac of treatment, you know?
Right.
And we have struggled our entire lives from birth, literally, to where we are right now, struggling every day. And they will look at us and disregard our pain like it's nothing. It's really, really appalling to me sometimes how
Right.
they treat us, you
Right.
know?
Like, you say, "Oh, I need this milligram of Dilaudid." It's like you just asked for crack. Like, I
Right.
just said, "Hey, can you pass me some of that heroin?" Like, it's so crazy. Like, And a lot of this, we have treatment plans that are in our chart. You could go to
Right.
our chart and say, like, what I'm asking for is probably not even half of what I usually get. I'm just trying to make sure,
Right.
hey, like, you're not gonna start some mess with me. But
Right.
we shouldn't have to fight for decent human, like,
Care.
we shouldn't. Like, for example, my dad, he deals with prostate cancer, and I took him to the emergency room once. And the urgency, I mean, I was glad because it's my dad, but I'm like, dang,
Right.
I don't receive that type of urgency. They just say, oh, sit down. And then all of a sudden you're sitting down for 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 hours in the
Yep.
emergency, shortness of
Yep.
breath, crying. You're probably screaming, you're on the floor, and they're just looking at you like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
And then turn back
Yep.
around. It
Yep.
shouldn't be.
Yep. The last time that I was in the ER, which was literally the weekend of November 8th, because it was
Mm-hmm.
the weekend my dad passed away or whatever. And yeah, I literally was like bawling, crying, and the nurses were just looking at me like I was crazy or like I was being dramatic. And I
Mm-hmm.
literally at that time, I got admitted that night because my hemoglobin was like 5 point something, and I had acute chest. But when I came into the ER, they were treating me like, "Oh, here goes this drug addict again. She's
Right.
back again trying to get her hit." You know? It
Right.
it's
Like,
it's so crazy.
if we wanted a hit or
Mhm.
something, we'll go to the emergency room. Trust and believe. We will not go there. We'll go where the other people be
Right.
going for stuff. And then the crazy thing is,
Exactly.
you go there, you cry, you're in pain, you're dramatic. You go there, you're not crying, you're trying to distract yourself, you're not in pain. You can't win. You can't win at all.
Mhm.
Like,
Right,
okay,
exactly. Girl, when you hear the first interview, it's gonna be released tomorrow. You
oh
are gonna
wow.
hear me saying the exact same thing that you just said, literally. I can go I know about 10 different places I can go if I really wanted to get high.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna go to the person that's asking me 50, 11 questions and treating me horribly and got me waiting for hours and hours on end if I am just trying to get high.
Right.
Like, I can get it easier by going to the dealer's house than going to the hospital. So
Exactly.
I'm not
Exactly.
understanding. It's so crazy to me that they still try to do that, and then on top of that, they're still over medicating these infants also.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
put they're trying to put a 4-year-old on morphine. I
Wow.
understand. Right. I understand that, like, he has sickle cell, I get it. But there is so much other stuff that's non-narcotic that when you go to the hospital, they can give you,
And especially as a
especially
boy,
for a child.
I didn't start
Mm,
receiving morphine until I was like a teenager. I was put on
right,
Toradol and all the other, like, either low end narcotics or like not narcotics. I didn't receive morphine up until I was a teen, and that's when all the
right,
now that they weren't working anymore. But a 4-year old, and then they wonder why that 4-year old grows up and then all of a sudden needs like 6 to 8 milligrams of Dilaudid, and then they're looking at them crazy like, oh no, I've never
mhm,
given anybody 6 milligrams of Dilaudid. Well, when you start them young, unfortunately, many of us has been started in narcotics young. We get
right,
a we're not going to be on the same little milligram of morphine that we were when we were a kid. We get tolerant,
right,
and that's normal. So you can't now blame that adult when they become an adult and say, "Oh, were they taking too much medicine?" You can't blame them. You started us off taking these,
right.
so you can't blame them when they become an adult.
Mhm. And it's the crazy thing is when I was trying to avoid taking narcotics at one point, I had a lot of different options of things that I could take that were not narcotic.
Mm-hmm.
IV and pill. I had a lot of options, and some of them worked better than the narcotics sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like Toradol. I bet if you give a baby Toradol when they're having a crisis, it would probably help them
Right.
at the level that a narcotic would because they're so young, you know? It
And it's so
may not help them
crazy.
later on down the line, but go ahead.
No, no, it's so crazy. You just sparked an idea. Like back then, before the whole 2016 DEA stuff happened, we had so many choices.
Mhm.
They were throwing it at us. There are some patients that I've
Yeah.
talked to that didn't need daily medication, but the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, here's 120 pills of this, or here's 60 pills of that." And then after
Yep.
the 2016 DEA stuff happened, it's like now we're fighting for that same medication when it was thrown at us a couple years back.
Right. Yep. And they will continue to give the person that broke their arm 5 years ago pain medicine like
Mm,
their arm is still broken, but let us come with our crisis and need something, and we're the addicts. And it's like,
right,
bruh, I didn't break my arm 5 years ago, bruh. I didn't break my arm 5 years ago and still complain about this pain. I am having legit pain
right,
for a legit reason, and yet I still have to argue and fuss and fight about these pain medicines.
right.
It's crazy. It's so
It
crazy.
is so crazy. I wish
Uh,
that I wish we were able to transfer pain. Like, okay, you don't believe me? I may give it to you for like 30 seconds and see if you're gonna have the same idea that like
Exactly.
because like you see, I mean you said it perfectly. There's people that I've seen online that they've been getting pain medicines for 10 years for a spasm in their back. And yeah, their pain is legit, but how come mine that is caused by a disease that I was born with, I didn't choose, I didn't cause it, I didn't go on a roller coaster, broke my
Right.
neck or something. I was born with it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, no, we can only give you like Cymbalta and some gabapentin. It's like, what?
Right. Right. That's what they try to do. They try to put you on those psychotic medications, the depression medications, and then the non-narcotic which is nothing wrong with that, but if I'm in a real crisis, that stuff is not going to help.
At
It's
all.
not going to help. Not at this point. You know, it's so crazy. And so what is your opinion of the all of the treatments that are available for sickle cell as far as the cure goes?
Well, me personally, I'm kind of happy they're available. However, I do have some like thoughts. Like, okay, why wasn't this done earlier? Why is it so expensive to be done? You say, oh, here's a cure, but it's $2 million. Like anybody can
Right.
just pull 2 million out of their bank account and say here. Like
Yeah.
when there's cures made from other people of with different diseases, they're affordable. Medicare and in Tennessee we have TennCare, which we Medicaid. They'll pay for it.
Mhm.
But for us, we have to fight to say, hey, we have exhausted all our options, all the
Mhm.
hydroxyurea, all the other medications, they do not work. And now I want this
Mhm.
cure, and now insurance is fighting you. Meanwhile, if they made this same cure for a different demographic who gets who has another genetic condition, men, thousands of them can go and get it without an issue, but we have to fight for it. It's like
Yep.
it's like I
It's
don't
a
know
shame.
it's a shame, and it's also disheartening because many patients who have probably been following it for years and hoping for years, and then it finally comes out
Yeah.
and like, they can't get it. Like, what the hell? Like, for
Right.
example,
Right.
only 9 hospitals in the US are doing it. 8 of those hospitals are children's hospitals. And they have a cap to age 35. It's like, okay, so sickle cell patients are not supposed to live past 35? Or the ones who are 35 and above, they're not supposed to live a long life? Like, why is it that they have a cap? Why
Right.
are hospitals in certain areas are doing it? Like, I don't know. I didn't see any hospitals in the West Coast. I didn't see any hospitals like in the New England states. So what if a sickle cell patient who doesn't have family, who can't drive or can't fly, who doesn't have a doctor that will let them know, like, hey, this is going on, how are they supposed to get it? So are they just supposed to be in their misery and then pass away and then that's it? Like, I think it's so unfair.
Yeah,
Like, for example,
that's
me,
what they want.
right? Like, for example, me, my hospital did my doctor, he did the very first sickle cell patient for CRISPR. He did the very first. This was happening in
Oh
my
wow.
city, Nashville, Tennessee. This happened in my city, and I didn't know nothing about it. My doctors that I used to have, they did not say anything. They believe hydroxyurea is gold standard, and they believe bone marrow transplant is the only thing that helps. When I got
Mm,
tested to see if I could get bone marrow transplant, I was deemed ineligible because I don't have a sibling that was a match. I don't have any. I mean, majority of my family members are in Nigeria. I'm not. How am I going to be flying them one by one to come and get tested? I can't do that. And then you
mhm,
don't tell me that your fellow doctor, because when I told my new doctor, who my old doctors were, he was like, "Yeah, I know that. We're all colleagues. We go to conferences." Well, your fellow doctors didn't tell me nothing. I didn't know this was going on until I worked for this company and I was able to find your information. They didn't refer me to you. I found your information on my own. And that's sad because
mhm.
there's so many sickle cell patients where I live that I used to see at my old clinic that have no idea this went on for 5 years. Because he did the very first patient in 2019 and he's been doing trials ever since. That
Mm.
nothing was said to not one of them. And now I'm the one that's trying to let everybody know in my city, like, hey, this is going on. If you can get referred, if you could find this, I'll give you his phone number, everything. If you need it, just call me. I'll give everything you need. I know another sickle cell patient who got the CRISPR transplant, and her doctor didn't refer her. She had to look online for weeks to find it. Like,
Yeah.
it should, if you have a cure, especially a cure that is known to help patients, that has a good, chance of living a very good life afterwards, it should be accessible, it should be cheap, it should be accepted. Doctors shouldn't gatekeep the information. It should be all known. It shouldn't, like, why does everything have to be a goose chase just to survive? Like,
Yeah.
I it doesn't make any sense to me why at all that happens, because many
Yeah.
sickle patients don't have the resources, they don't have the family, they don't have the money, they don't have the means to
Yeah.
do it themselves. Some of them need that extra help, like, say, hey, there's a doctor in this city that's doing it, or there's a hospital in this city, can you go to it? Can, like, and insurance shouldn't fight it. Like, okay, would you rather pay for hundreds of thousands of dollars a hospital visit, or would you rather pay for this one time and then
Right.
for the rest of our lives you don't have to worry about us? Like,
Right. Yep. The logic sometimes for the insurance company is not there. And it's really crazy to me. I was surprised when you said that you were doing the fertility treatment. Did you find an insurance company that was able to cover that, or is it a part of the trial?
so it's actually part of the trial. So the trial that I'm in, it's at TriStar Centennial Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee. They're still doing trials, so I didn't have to go through insurance. If I
Okay.
had through insurance, I wouldn't have been able to do the oh, my insurance pays for fertility, but not every insurance does that. Like I wouldn't have
Mhm.
had issue with going through fertility at all. But my trial, which is from Vertex Pharmaceuticals, it covers
Mm.
everything. So it covers your flights if you have to fly in. It covers hotel if you have to stay in a hotel. If you drive back and forth like I do, it covers your mileage. Um, it covers all the food you eat. It covers all the doctor's visits. It covers um the medication. It covers procedures. Like me, I had to get a central line, so that
Mhm.
was covered through it. Um, it covers the fertility. So for men, they do what they do, and they send it off, and it's kept for 10 years. For women, they cover 2 cycles of egg retrievals, so it covers up to 10 years of storage for those eggs. So between the time that I end my transplant and 10 years from now, it will cover all the storage fees for that. Now, it wouldn't cover when I get those eggs out and then decide to capture it, that's on me. But it covers the eggs that I freeze. It covers all the blood exchanges, hospital stays. They
Okay.
cover everything. So, but they're still doing trials. It's surprising. I was so surprised because I thought like, okay, do I have to go through insurance? How are we gonna navigate that? But no, these pharmaceuticals, because they still want to train more labs in doing it, they want to train more hospitals in the process. So there are still clinical trials. So if you find, like I said, mine is TriStar Centennial Hospital. They
Mhm.
have open every couple of months, um, and they get maybe about 25 patients per trial. So if anybody is interested, I could give all the
Okay.
that and everything. But it was literally the right place at the right time because when I got into the trial, there was one more spot left, and
Mhm.
I had to do an EKG, I had to do MRI, X-rays, pulmonary function test, heck, a lot of labs. I had to do all the testings just to make sure that I'm healthy-ish because
Mhm.
there are still requirements like you have to have I forgot how many hospitalizations, but you have to have a couple of hospitalizations in the last 2 years. Um Now they're doing 12 years and older, so you have to be 12 years old and older to be qualified. Of course, you have to show proof of all the hospitalizations, all the emergency visits, and they just have to make sure that you're stable enough for the chemotherapy. That's why they do all those testing because the chemotherapy is a very high dose chemotherapy. So, and in the interim, like while you're waiting, they do blood exchanges. Like me, I'm not on hydroxyurea, I'm not on Endari or I know Oxbryta has now been pulled off the market, but I'm not any of those medications. I'm just relying on blood exchanges and my daily pain medicines. And I do take a blood thinner and a antibiotic because of my central line, just to prevent
Uh,
anything from.
yeah. Okay, that's good. So, what was the process? Well, you kind of detailed the process for the CRISPR trial. If you do have the information, you can definitely text it to me, and so I can include it in this episode, just in case anyone is curious about the CRISPR trial.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely will do that.
okay. So I have a few um bonus questions for you. um, have you seen any episode of the podcast?
I have not. See me, I like to watch things in bulk, so I wanted to kind of
Oh,
have a couple good episodes and just like watch it back to back to back to back. So I have not yet, but I do plan
okay.
to.
Yes, please do. They're on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook, the full episodes. And there's 6 for the first season, there's 6 episodes.
Okay.
On the first episode, I'll talk about pain. Um, on the second episode, I'll talk about challenges. And so, what do you think your biggest challenge is with having sickle cell?
My biggest challenge was literally just trying to navigate adulting. When I was a child, everything was kind of said or done for you.
Mhm.
I could like I had a set schedule. I knew what I'm supposed to do on a daily. I knew what not to do. When I graduated college and then entered the world, got my first apartment, got, dating, all of that. That was a
Mm,
challenge, very hard challenge to navigate because now I don't have somebody on my back telling me you can't do this, you can't do that. Now I have to know better for real. Now I have
mhm.
like know what my triggers are for real, for real. Like I knew like the
Yeah.
base. Yeah, I can't get too hot. I can't get too cold. Now I really have to know in detail so I don't F around and find out. And
Yeah.
the hospital, and then navigating the hospital as an adult was a very big challenge because again in pediatrics everything is done for you. You had a protocol. It's followed.
Yeah.
This one you can have
Yep.
all the protocols in the world, they still won't follow it.
Yep.
Now your biggest advocate. Now you have to know how to talk to these people because it's now a legal issue. It becomes a legal issue. It becomes a privacy issue. It's an issue of humanity. It's an issue of morals. And just
Mhm.
trying to find that group of doctors that will have your back is another challenge because I need to make sure that my PCP was on point. I need to make sure my gynecologist is on point. I need to make sure that my hematology that I find one because I've had the same hematologist from 18 up until 25. Then I switched earlier this year to my new hematologist. And the hematologist that I had for the last 7 years, they weren't working with them. Like they kept saying how like, oh well, you weren't this bad, you weren't this bad. It's like, well, sickle cell, you all are sickle cell doctors, y'all. You've been practicing for over 40 years, and you should know better. But
Right.
and just trying to constantly fight on a daily basis with people that you think should know better. Yeah, that was not it at all. So this is a
Yeah.
being an adult with sickle cell and just trying to make sure you are your P's and Q's and that everybody around you knows what's up too so that there are no missing links, there are no questions about what should be done. So that was the
Yeah. So, now I have a question about dating and things.
Mhm.
When do you think it is appropriate to tell the person you're dating or a potential person that you might date about your sickle cell diagnosis?
Well, it was just like a fling, which I mean I've had many of those. I've dated all types of characters. I've dated many types of ways. It was just like a fling, like okay, this is what we're doing, and we're not doing nothing more. Oh yeah, they're not gonna know. But if it was somebody like, okay, I'm dating, like I because I'm Nigerian, pretty early I was like, okay, I'm dating for marriage. So anybody
Mm,
that's going to me and I'm going to be their girlfriend and they're going to be my boyfriend, it, we have to make it to there. Which obviously they make it with everybody, but it made it with one person. So when I
mm,
knew that, okay, I could see a future with this person, I'm going to tell them. So with my husband, I kind of told him pretty early, only because we were, I mean, he's not from Ghana. So I the type of, like, we just knew, like, hey, we both want the same things. We both want marriage. We both want family. We both want. I was like, okay, let me tell you early, because the other people before is like, okay, you say you want this, but you obviously don't want it. So I don't want to let you know,
Right.
something. But if I ended up in the hospital while I was dating something, I would tell them. So, but with my husband, I told him pretty early. I think maybe within the first week, I told him, and I gave him a rundown of how, what sickle cell is, how it works, what could happen to me, all the
Mm,
different things. I said, hey, take it or leave it.
that's good.
So
That's
telling early, especially if you know, like, okay, this person can be in your life for the long term. I believe in laying everything out there so they could make the decision
yep.
instead of getting so far. Like, I wouldn't tell anybody, like, I would tell somebody within 3 months, because after 3 months, that's when it's like, okay, you're kind of past the honeymoon stage. You're now starting to get into real life. You're each other's routines. You've probably met a couple of each other's family and friends at that point. If it's very serious, I wouldn't tell anybody past. I mean, I would tell somebody within 3 months, just because I want to give you the opportunity to leave if you choose, or if you choose to stay, then it's like, okay, here's what we can work on. And plus, I really I catch feelings very quickly, so it has to. I need to make sure we still have feelings for each other after the fact.
Mm,
So, and like I said,
yeah.
3 months is always like my sweet spot, because at least if I tell you within 3 months, it could be, and you decide to leave, it's like, oh, okay, I miss this person, but it's not like I'm heartbroken about it. So,
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Before you get in too deep, you let them know. And I said the same thing. You literally took the words out of my mouth. It's like, if I know that there's a potential future there, then I'm gonna let them know what's going on. And
mm,
most people, that the person that's right for you, they're gonna wanna know anyway so that they can be there for you, you know? So I definitely agree with you. And what was your husband's reaction when you told him that you had sickle cell? What did he say?
well, he was very inquisitive. So he was asking different questions, like how it affects me, what is it? Because he heard about it, but he didn't know too much. So it was just a bunch of answering his questions, and then letting him know, like, I can be hospitalized and I will be hospitalized eventually. Um, Different medications. One thing he asked is like, okay, can it be passed down? And I told him, I'm like, yes. However, if you do not have the gene, then you don't have to worry about our kids having it. And if you do have the gene, you don't have to worry about kids at all, because I'm not going to. One thing that
Right.
I believe in is that I will not bring a kid with the same condition that I have, because I knew how I had to fight, and I do not want to subject a kid that I purposefully brought into this world into that. So I told him that, I was like, if you have the gene and if we work out, I'm like, you ain't even got to worry about no kids, because I'm not gonna have them. So
Right.
um,
Yep.
you do, I'll pop you out one or three. We'll see. But I purposefully bringing a kid with sickle cell. Hell no, I will not. I will never. I will never
Right.
forget if I ever do it. Just
Yep.
knowing.
Yep. I'm the same way. I really am. And I literally, I don't believe in abortion, but that's one circumstance where I feel like abortion would be warranted, because to bring a kid into this world to suffer the way that we do, I feel like is very cruel, especially when you know how hard it is and how hard we struggle. You
Yeah,
know, I think it's very, very cruel. It's one thing to bring the child in the world and you didn't know. It's another thing to know and disregard it and still bring the child into the world to suffer. So,
exactly. I remember my old hematologist was telling me about a family. I think they have 4 kids and 3 of them had sickle cell. I'm like, after the first one, no, you don't have to worry about me again. Like I'm too,
right.
but to purposely bring 3 kids, oh no 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 no.
Yeah.
Like
It's
I'll
wrong.
give you a second chance with the second. You didn't know it was gonna happen twice, but you still kept having after the second one. Yeah, no, no no no, couldn't be.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. We're right here with that because it's crazy. And
True.
there are people out there that have sickle cell trait and they know they have sickle cell trait and their partner has sickle cell trait and they're still having children. And some people have the misconception that if you have the trait, only one in every 4 pregnancies will produce a child with sickle cell. Some
Right.
people have gotten that confused, and it's like that's not how it works.
Exactly.
Every single pregnancy is going to be a risk.
Right. It's not like you said, it's not like, oh, if I have 4 kids, one will have sickle cell. No, you could have 4 kids and none of them carry anything. You could have 4 kids and all of them carry. You could have 4 kids, 2 of them have the disease and 2 of them are carriers. It's per
Yep.
pregnancy. So if
Yes.
you both have the trait, you have a 25% chance that the kid will come out with the disease. You have a 50
Yep.
chance they'll be a carrier, and you have a 25% chance that they won't carry. It's per pregnancy. So,
Yes.
and that's something that I hope in the future that we could really, really push. And I know many, people online, many doctors have really tried, but it needs to be worldwide. Like, hey,
Yeah.
because I think in France, I think my dad told me in France, if 2 people have the trait, you can't get married. Like they wouldn't marry you if you have
Oh.
if you and your partner have the trait. So it
Mhm.
needs to be there. Everybody needs their test results. Like go get a genetic test. Ask or
Yes.
order a full panel genetic test at least. And if you don't want to pay for a genetic test, go donate blood. If you're healthy, go donate blood. They'll let you know if you carry
Mhm.
blood. Everybody needs to know their status and then talk about
Yes.
when you're dating somebody, talk about it. See
Yes.
their family because to have a kid with sickle cell, I mean, seeing what my parents went through, you know, my mom, one time she got fired from her job because I was in the hospital and she wanted to take care of me. You know,
Right. It's a struggle having children with sickle cell. Did you have anything that we did not discuss that you wanted to discuss or any questions that you have for me?
and I hope that us as a community and then, allies of the community, supporters of the community, continue to research, continue to ask questions, continue to advocate. I know it gets hard. I know there's probably not a lot of people listening, but one day somebody will listen to us. One day
Yeah.
we could be able to pass laws and pass policies. One day we'll be able to educate more and more about this disease and people will take us seriously. One
Yes.
day. And then on top of that, like CRISPR, if anybody is ever interested in CRISPR, like I said, there are 9 hospitals, at least as I know, that are doing the CRISPR trial. Go on clinicaltrials.gov. It's pretty simple to navigate. You just put in sickle cell as the condition, and then as treatment, you put CRISPR, and then it will show you all the. You can look at closed trials, but you can put it to where you can see all the open ones that are accepting patients. You know,
Okay.
see if you can find one in your area or near you. A lot of people are, they don't know where to turn and they have doctors that were similar to my old doctors where they can't get any information. So
Right.
please go on that, and of course, you can be on TikTok, and I'm showing my journey on there. And of course, you can DM me if you have any additional questions or any videos anybody wants me to put out there. And, you know,
Okay.
of course, always, stay hydrated, stay warm,
Yeah.
please. It is
Yeah.
that season where the cold is upon us. C-19 has been upon us.
Mhm.
Pneumonia, acute chest. So please
Yep.
take those preventative measures. I know we want to wear our cute clothes all year, but it's about that time to hang up those cute clothes and pull out a jacket. So
Yep. Mhm. It's about time to bundle up and cover up.
definitely,
Well, I have so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for again agreeing to do this interview.
definitely, definitely. And I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So you can call me, you can text me if you need me, if you just want to talk, if you need an ear to to listen, a shoulder to cry on, a helping hand, anything. Hit me up because we're family. We're locked in like this.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yes. So, but to everybody else, we're out of here. Peace.
Yes.
Mhm.